Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's continuous testing meetup. Aurelian and Seth, the recording is already ongoing. Cool. That's nice. All right. Yeah, welcome everybody. First, as usual, thanks to our sponsors, Source Labs, TUI Amusement, and Trendic for supporting us and making it possible to have this meetup. And special thanks go out to Aurelian and Seth and Diego for your support. And if you missed the past events, then just visit our webpage, continuoustestingmeetup.com. There you will find the videos of our past events. Very interesting. And before we start with our today's speaker, Nikolay, one short reminder on my own behalf. So in the middle of November, less than 2 months, the Agile testing days take place. And don't miss this event. We will have our 15th birthday. So there will be a big celebration. And for our community, we have a special deal. So there is a 15% discount. You just need to copy the code below the picture, or just contact me and I can send it over. If you have any questions in regards to this event, you can contact our event team, events@trendic.com. All right, so now it's time for introducing our today's speaker. It's Nikolay, Principal Developer Advocate at Source Labs, and he brings the topic ChatGPT takes on web development. So Nikolay, I would hand over the stage to you, and have fun.
All right, thank you, Anya. Let me share my screen. Everyone see my screen okay? Excellent. Let me get this thing out of the way. Hey, everyone, welcome to ChatGPT Takes on Web Development from Concept to Launch. The journey that I went on through this presentation and the journey that I want to take you on today was to figure out whether ChatGPT can actually build, test, and deploy a web application. So much hype around ChatGPT, but it hasn't been put to the test a lot. And so what are its actual capabilities? What are the boundaries where it works well and those where it doesn't? My name is Nikolay Advolodkin, Principal Developer at Source Labs. I've been in the tech space since 2008. I'm like super passionate about automated testing, web development, CI/CD. So passionate that in 2015 started UltimateQA with a focus of sharing my knowledge and my lessons, training people all over the world through blog posts and videos. To date, I've trained 150,000 people in 184 countries, 11 shy of all the recognized countries in the world. So I got to figure out how to target those. And then on the right, you'll see a picture of me and my wife in our beautiful city of Miami, where we currently reside. Oh, and can't miss my little dog, Mia. So I believe I shouldn't even be asking this question, but I'm curious. Does anyone still not know what ChatGPT is? I'm curious. Drop in the chat if you're unfamiliar with ChatGPT. Yeah, for sure, Nitesh. I can explain more. So ChatGPT can it do a better job of explaining what it is to you than I can? And why not let it do the work for me and tell you what it is? So ChatGPT is basically a chat interface created by OpenAI, where you can talk to the AI, ask it questions, ask it to solve problems. And in this case, as you see, I ask it to explain to a 5-year-old what you are and do it in this bullet point. So it's a computer program called ChatGPT. It helps people talk and understand each other better by using special language rules and knowledge. Yeah, and it's exactly just like you can talk to your friends and family. People can talk to the AI and ask it questions too. And it's trained on knowledge from the entire internet. So I originally did a version of this presentation back in late February, or was it early March, when ChatGPT 3.5 was available. And I took it on a similar journey, except not as extensive, but this is what the capabilities of ChatGPT looked like in terms of different aspects of web development and testing and DevOps. So overall, back then, it did a great job around creative content creation and generating code of like slower moving technologies like Java or like Bash or PowerShell, those Git, those technologies that don't change a lot in terms of their APIs. Technologies that change really fast, like JavaScript, CI stuff, it did a horrible job on. Installation of tooling, the installation instructions were always wrong, and it was always better to go back to the tool itself to figure out how to install rather than following ChatGPT. Since then, ChatGPT has moved to a model called ChatGPT 4. If you are using the Plus version, which is the paid version of ChatGPT, you get access to GPT-4. The free version is on GPT 3.5. What you'll see on the right-hand side are the updates that have happened since it's gone to GPT-4. Overall, it's just a better model, a larger model, better trained on a lot more data. It is smarter, it hallucinates less. And overall, we'll see kind of the progress that's happened to it as we try to build, test, and deploy a web app. So enough talk, let's actually take it for a test drive. So to design this web app, I always wanted to make a vision board application because I like to have a vision board and like put my goals on there and try to visualize me achieving my goals. And I've never found a good vision board app. They're always kind of like clunky and poorly designed. So I'm like, oh, perfect. If I'm gonna be creating a presentation, let me take an opportunity to see if ChatGPT can help me to create a vision board application. And so that way I can feed two birds with one stone. So we'll start with concept and design. I basically put in a prompt and told ChatGPT, hey, listen, I want to create a web application. I want to use React. I want to use TypeScript. I want my application to be mobile friendly, and I want to do a vision board application where I can display images and some information about those images so that I know what goal I want to achieve and by when. And so this is the first thing that came out of it, was the wireframe that talked about its design, which to me looks great. Everything makes sense, and I agree with what came out here. Next, it produced user stories. So if you read through some of these user stories, I think they're pretty excellent. As a user, I want to be registered for an account. As a user, I want to log into my account so that I can access and manage my vision board. I want to edit my goals. I want to view my goals in a grid layout. So all of these user stories, pretty great. It also generated some requirements. So like app must have a registration system for creating new users. App must allow users to delete goals from their vision board. App must display goals in a 3x3 grid layout. Overall, really great requirements for this application for us to start moving towards its development. And it also provided some design principles as well. Mobile first approach, totally, definitely should be a mobile first web app, should be definitely responsive. That's been the main challenges that I've seen is these apps are poorly designed, poorly responsive. They don't think about the mobile view, which, you know, at least 50% of our usage nowadays is on mobile. Simple and clean interface, touch-friendly UI elements, and optimizing images, because I think being fast is extremely important in a web app. So I started asking it to give me instructions on how to get this set up. Like, what do I do? Take me through the process. It started doing a great job in terms of installation instructions, and I came across an error. The error was related to, the error is not in here, but it was related to some kind of React error. And I put that error in here, and this was the response that I got. This was totally different from GPT 3.5, because actually this was exactly the fix that needed to happen. I followed the instructions here, implemented the fix, and the error went away. So good job there, ChatGPT 4. So this is the version 1 of the application. As you can see, it's, I would say, pretty good. It's not maybe the best designed, and I didn't specify any design elements either. This is kind of what came out. There's a goal at the top, a due date, and then an image expectation. And I thought this part was actually also really cool. It supplied default images to put in here until I replace them with actual images. I went through a few iterations of this application. This was the version that I finally settled on. You can see that functionally it works. There's a grid in the back, and then it's supposed to open up our goal in a large view, and we're supposed to be able to visualize and focus on that goal. What you'll note there, if I replay the video, is the design part, which was interesting. I was like, how do I scroll through my goals? And what you'll notice when we go into mobile view was it decided to make the arrows gray. And so, of course, that blends into the black background, and also the close button was also gray. So in mobile view, it's easier to see because it's on top of the light gray goals, but in desktop view, it was harder to see, but functionally it worked. Here's some of the code that it generated. From my very rudimentary, I'm definitely not a front-end developer. I'm dangerous enough to create applications like this, but it looks good. It's clean. Everything makes sense. Well-named methods. Everything very simple. Here's a component, a container with components in there. All of it makes sense to me. Again, from my rudimentary understanding from web development, everything was good. Everything was clean and clear, very easy for me to follow. The deployed version of this application is at that QR code if you want to go ahead and grab it. That'll be that little black and white version that was generated. I'll hold a moment if anyone wants to capture that and check it out in real life. Cool. So what about the testing part? Okay, we were able to create the web app. Let's test it now. So that's, I think, is the cool thing about ChatGPT and using that interface is if it starts with a knowledge of what you're trying to do, it'll maintain the memory and history of your conversation. And so it knows the code that it wrote. Hence, it knows how to test that code as well. So I said, generate me some Cypress end-to-end tests. That's pretty much all I said. And it generated me 4 tests, as you can see. Should display all goals. Yeah, good. Should open a modal when clicking on a goal image. Yup, good one. Should close the modal when clicking on the close button. Another good test case. And should navigate through the goals in the modal. All great test cases. As you see the outcome here, 2 passed and 2 failed. The reason the 2 failed was actually element locator issues. The HTML that it generated, HTML and CSS that it generated, was not the most testable. And so when it had to start interacting with modals, it got lost in the locators. This is actually pretty easy to fix. You can tell ChatGPT to add unique data attributes to your code. But that wasn't my goal here. I wanted to see what it can do from scratch with very little guidance for me. But functionally, the tests were good. It just missed some locators. Very easily fixed. These are the tests executing to show you. So there's a displaying of the goals. Here's opening a modal, and you'll see that after this one is where it struggled. It opens up the modal and it just can't interact with the buttons because it was had poor locators for the buttons. Yeah. So if it, again, we could have recommended to set better locators for these elements, and then that would have fixed the issue. Then I said, okay, maybe let's try some Playwright end-to-end tests. What will those look like? And actually, same exact issue here. 2 tests worked, 2 tests failed, also because of locators. Then I said, okay, how about you create me an accessibility test? This one did not work well. Some ChatGPT API sometimes tends to be outdated, especially with fast-moving environments like JavaScript. And so here it tried to use a library, a class that doesn't exist. And so you'll see that there was this error here. It wasn't recognized from the Axe Core Playwright library. Here are the Playwright tests running. So again, similar to Cypress, gets stuck on the locators, just unable to interact with the buttons or the close button. So what about continuous integration, right? We've got our app code, we've got some tests. I wanted to push it through CI and actually deploy it. First, I tried GitHub Actions. GitHub Actions, you'll see, excuse me, you'll see it failed. It wasn't able, looks like, to spin up localhost. And so the tests were failing. I did a little bit of troubleshooting here. I was like, okay, let me try to disable the test at least. I'll disable the testing to see if it can go on beyond that. And it still failed. So of course I can keep digging into this to fix it, but that wasn't the point. Again, I wanted to see what can ChatGPT actually do by itself. Try to push it up through Netlify. Didn't make it up to Netlify. Couldn't find the directory, so it's getting a little bit lost. Then I'm like, okay, let's try Azure DevOps. Azure DevOps was having similar issues as GitHub Actions. Trying to deploy it, also couldn't find what it needed to deploy. Which I found interesting because it did have access to all the code. So it was interesting that it couldn't find exactly what it needed to deploy. Some areas to improve. It was interesting when I was getting it to help me set up Cypress. It provided the right Cypress instructions, but using old setup instructions. So this is using, I forget which version they changed. I think it's Cypress 10. They changed how they structure their folders. And so like this command was wrong. App design, as I mentioned before, the app functionally worked, but it was interesting that it picked black arrows and the black close button on top of a black background. I wonder if it could have realized its mistake, or maybe this is something harder to do. Of course, again, we could have guided it to be better. And also easily fixed, to be honest. I mean, it's a wonderful start for me, not being a front-end developer, more a back-end developer with some front-end capabilities. It's a wonderful start, a great place to pick up from here, fix some issues, and keep going. So, a summary of everything that was covered here is this is what I found GPT-4 capabilities after going through trial and error here. As you saw, the Cypress and Playwright tests, I gave it a okay because functionally the tests worked. The tests were great. I mean, the tests were even the right tests to be performing. They just failed because of the locators. So very easy fix there, and the testing would have been pretty awesome. Simple web components, like creating pretty much almost everything in the web app, ChatGPT did a fantastic job in. I did it, I tried it both with React and Next. It did a really good job in that. CI/CD, it still continues to struggle. It struggled in 3.5, struggling in 4.0 as well. It continues to make small mistakes in the CI process that don't allow it to build, test, and deploy. I was able to create a working React app and a working Next app. I showed you both of those. Functionally correct. Design could probably be better and more beautiful. Installation of tools, that has improved. It was able to take me through pretty much the entire process. Whenever there was errors, it was able to help me resolve those errors. As you saw, like these kind of less technical, more generic tasks like wireframes, user stories requirements, it did a fantastic job in my opinion. And then, yeah, as I mentioned, beautiful designs. It doesn't really understand how to design something beautiful. And I wonder what it would take for the process to design us a beautiful app, and how to fine-tune the model to be able to do that. So maybe a question that comes up a lot and a point of conversation when I'm doing all this is, will ChatGPT replace developers? So when I did a version of this presentation in May, my answer would have been different. Today, after working with AI more and seeing its progress, my answer is yes. I see a future, and a near future, maybe in the next few years, where a high-level senior engineer, maybe an architect, is no longer managing a team of developers. Instead, I see that engineer managing a team of bots and coordinating those bots to come together to deliver a product to production, almost like a orchestra, a conductor of an orchestra. That's what I believe the future is with these AI tools. So I think people that are scared of AI or not utilizing it right now are rapidly falling behind. And I do believe that they will be replaced. What's the value of AI? Right now, as you saw, it's good. It's not perfect. It's a wonderful place to start. It's a wonderful place to break the writer's block, give us a foundation, and then build on top of that foundation. For me, again, as I mentioned, not a front-end developer. I can make very basic web apps following tutorials from YouTube. I was able to design this, and can I make it bigger and better and larger and scalable? Maybe. That'll be the next step, the next iteration for me to try. But I see it as a great start for all of us and accelerating all of us right now. Another thing, you can use ChatGPT to create abstracts and submit them for you to conferences. That's how I originally created an early version of this presentation. Was I had ChatGPT create me a conference talk around how to build and create a continuous integration pipeline using AI.
This is Little Nikolay. Thank you for joining my talk. This video message was created using DD and Resemble. I showcasing the potential of AI technology in communication. Please scan the Q code to stay connected. Have an awesome day.
Hopefully everyone heard that. Did you all hear that? Give a thumbs up if you heard that. If not, I'll play it again. Cool, cool, awesome. Yeah, so that was me playing around a little bit with AI tech using DID, fully AI generated image. This is a little picture of me when I was a little boy back in Uzbekistan. Found this picture, put it into DID, used Resemble to clone my voice, put my voice file with this image, and then DID generated this speaking image. Not perfect, but pretty cool. And for anyone that wants the source code, it's here. And by the way, all the images you saw here were generated by Midjourney. So like this image here is Midjourney AI generated. Grab the source code there. That's it for the presentation. Thank you. Let me know what questions you have.
All right, thank you very much. Great stuff. Aurelian had a question. Do you want to unmute yourself?
Yes, of course. Yeah, you mentioned the future of developers. Luckily, I'm no longer a developer, but in this case, what do you think could be the alternative for people, especially even junior? Because I have a kid and now there is coding for kids. So what do you think could be the alternative for them if they want to go in the computing world?
Yeah, Aurelian, that is such a fantastic question. Keep in mind, right, what I said here, that was my opinion and just based on my experience. I could be totally wrong. You know, many people have similar opinions, but it's interesting, you know, it's like you can't fight the progress of technology. If we think about technology through the history, once a technology is released, it cannot be stopped. The only technology in history that has ever been slowed down a little bit is nuclear technology, because the world saw the devastating power of it. But that's not happening here with AI. There's no been devastating consequences with it yet. So AI is going to happen whether we like it or not. I think the future is to figure out how to work with it and how to be a master of it, whatever form that takes itself, whether it's being a developer that's orchestrating it, whether it's being a developer that trains it, whether it's being a content writer that's using AI to generate an article every day. I don't know, whatever form that looks like, but I think it becomes a symbiosis of us with AI. But ultimately, unfortunately, I do feel like a lot of people will get their jobs replaced. And so then it comes to like a new societal impact. It's like, what do you do when hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of jobs are no longer necessary? That I don't know the answer to that. I'm not smart enough to tackle that, unfortunately.
There isn't currently another question. If it's okay, I would add a little thing that I thought about in this regard. There used to be a time when every company who has more than 10 employees has an accountant, like a person who specifically goes to physical papers and changes a number here and here and here. And that was their whole job for like 100 years or something, right? And then the personal computer came along and they were like, oh no, we are out of a job. But then the companies realized, okay, maybe we don't just want to know how much money we spend or how much inventory we have, but what if we change like the salary of our employees by 1%, or what if we do this or that? So they went from the absolutely necessary to all those additional things that they could find out with having more accountant capabilities. So what I imagine is that this will make a space for software that is currently just not worth it, let's say, right? Because it takes a lot of time and a lot of people to work on it. So it has to benefit a lot of people. So long term, I think you will have a lot of software that is designed much more specifically for individuals or small groups, which wouldn't have been worth it in the past. So I hope it doesn't go away, but the job role will for sure change a little bit, at least. I also have a, sure.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a beautiful point, Seb, actually. I run a YouTube show called Test Automation Experience. And on there, we had one guest. His name is Hashem Al-Gaili. He's a fantastic science communicator. And we got into conversations a little bit about AI. And basically, the gist of it was that the future could potentially be where all of our individual experiences are customized to us in terms of everything, like the interactions that you have with AI, because AI knows who you are, the things that you see, the things you see on the web, the applications that you're interacting with. So it could, yes, AI could potentially replace the software developer as they exist today, but could also maybe create many new opportunities for all of these now unique implementations that have to exist, kind of as I think you were talking about, Seb.
Yeah, exactly. I do actually have a question myself. So I remember a time where it used to be best practice to have a separate team test the code of a completely independent developer team. And this was mostly related to trust, I would say. And this is a completely outdated model, and we don't do software testing like this anymore. And we expect the whole development team to take responsibility for quality. In this new world, do you think the bot that creates the software should be the bot that also tests the software? Or is this a point where, at least for now, we should maybe reduce the trust like we used to do with separate teams?
Do you have a concern that the bot would not do a good job of doing the testing?
I have a concern that it followed instruction that it interpreted, and then it will use the same interpretation to create the test. And if it got something wrong in the first interpretation, it will get the same thing wrong. So it will just cement the mistake or the misunderstanding of the task. And if you just think this machine is really, really smart, I'm done with this job, it got a green check mark, and then you push it into production, this might cause issues, especially since creating those tests was very cheap. And so you will probably create a lot of them. And just having a lot of volume, again, means it's hard to find the ones that look right but aren't.
Would you review the work that was done?
I think we're pretty bad at that stuff as humans. I think it will, like, you will scroll through and yeah, it looks great. Yeah, but like we all have missed like the small stuff. One thing should be a divide instead of a multiplier or something like that, right? And especially if you have a machine that you trust so much because you see how well it can communicate, and we have a strong connection between believing intelligence and being strong at communication. You believe this machine to be good at this stuff just because it can talk about it very well and be confident doing so. And then I think, yeah, you will probably have too much trust.
Yeah, those are great questions. I don't know. I would love to experience that. So far, from what I've seen, is when it has a context of our code base, it does a good job of building upon that context and like writing tests. The question is like, what will happen if we continue to do this and start to develop trust, and then trust it so much that we just let mistakes go by? How do we handle that? I don't know. I think we would just handle it in a agile manner and be like, okay, what's the problem here? Okay, it's writing improper tests. Let's create a system that checks that it doesn't write improper tests. Maybe I'd wait for that moment. I'd probably be lazier. I'd probably check its work and then let it do the work and then wait until it has an error and try to quickly fix the error and not let it happen again.
Yeah, thank you very much. Markus, do you want to unmute yourself to ask the question?
So let's check. Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Sounds good. Yep.
Okay. I think this is just a small proof of concept how we can do and support the software development process end to end for very limited application scope. And I think if the complex distributed systems which should collaborate, where we have contracts in place for the dependencies, but on top of it, there's the whole context and requirements have to be in place. And if we look at the current chat interface, the content you can provide is very limited. Do you have an idea how to scale it, how to adapt it to the learning cycle and the application life cycle you have done already, where you have tried some experiments and then get rid of due to your experiences, and then have some architectural design decisions in place, and then things like this, how to model this application model and the roadmap, yeah, and how to establish and support the process by collaborating bots.
Yeah, great question, Marcus. I haven't gone beyond this, and I think for me that would be the next step is let's make a bigger production level system, right? That's like lives in production and is actually used. That's one of my next projects, is to see if it can design me an actual chatbot, and then I want to release that chatbot and have people use it and me try and support it and see how that works with an AI next to my side, and see how it goes. One thing that I can say that's, you know, developing and already currently exists is like GitHub Copilot, or there's also Cody, which are two extensions that you can download and install into your Visual Studio Code. And of course, when they're installed in your Visual Studio Code, now they have the entire context of your whole database. So, not your whole database, your whole code base. And so if you got a bunch of code, thousands of files living in your code base, these AIs will be able to read it and understand it and can correlate all the different services together. Is that good enough? I don't know, but I see that as a next step for me to try and see what happens.
What I would assume is not a way forward to do it on your own. It will be to the platform providers. They will build it on the central platforms, and you have to live with it, probably.
Live with which part?
With the platform as a service, which provides the capabilities to scale and to integrate all of the participating bots and team members. Yeah. But we will see.
Yeah, the future is interesting. There is many questions and lots of questions, not enough answers. We'll see. It's new, right? ChatGPT only really changed our world at the end of last year. So hasn't even been a year yet, and all of us are already pondering all of this.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Marcus.
All right, thank you very much. Any additional questions? Feel free to unmute yourself or write in the chat. In the meantime, Nikolay, did you check? Did the test fail, or was the application broken when it tried to access those buttons?
The test failed due to a locator.
Okay, and so it just imagined a locator that wasn't there, or?
It used the right locator. The locator sucked. It was like a very deeply nested locator that I think it had trouble interacting with. Maybe I didn't expect it too deep. I saw the locator sucked because they were deeply nested, but maybe the fact that it was an arrow on top of another interface and then an X button was also on top of another interface, maybe it couldn't correctly identify it.
All right. Well. Okay, last chance. Any more questions? Okay, then thanks everyone. Thank you, Nikolay. And I think we can hand it back to Anja.
Thanks
Yeah.
everyone so much for your time and questions.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Nikolay. Yeah, very interesting. So I didn't use ChatGPT that much yet, but I know some developers who are already using it, and I ask myself at the moment, okay, do they already start to replace themselves with this technology? I don't know. But yeah, I would have been happy if this technology would have been already in place around 10 or 12 years ago, because then back then I was working as a developer, and it was really hard for me because I'm not the born developer. Therefore, I am the QA now. But ChatGPT would have been very helpful. So yeah, it's really cool. And thanks for this interesting insights, Nikolay.
Yeah, my pleasure, Anja. One thing I would say, it's very this point in history is very interesting, right? Because usually if we think back in histories of technology, when a technology comes along, it usually takes out the blue collar workers, right? All companies are trying to automate out their, like factory workers and replacing them with robots and so on. This is the first time that AI is actually more poised to take out the higher skilled workers, the white collar engineers and accountants and content creators and blog post writers and newspaper reporters and so on. So it's a very interesting, confusing time.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Nikolay. All right. So our next online meetup will take place at the 18th of October. And we will have Pepe here with his topic Beyond Load Testing, K6 for continuous reliability, wow, tongue breaker, testing. And hope to see you there. And yeah, nothing left but wish you a really nice evening. Thanks for joining us, and hope to see you soon in the next CTM online.
Thanks everyone. Have a nice day.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.